From our studios in Scottsdale, Arizona, welcome back. This is Retirement News Online. And if you're watching and you're in your 40s or 50s and starting to feel like, well, you may be behind on your retirement, you're not alone. And you're not out of options, though. This is often the stage where competing priorities like family, career, and debt have taken center stage. And retirement planning gets pushed down the list. Understandable. The good news is, these can also be your highest earning years, which means you have a real opportunity to make meaningful progress quickly with the right strategy. And joining us is Jennie Gilroy with Financial Strategies Group in Findlay, Ohio. Jennie, thanks for joining us. Findlay, that's, I think as you said, somewhere between Toledo and Columbus?
Yes, it's a beautiful small town.
Yeah.
We have the small town feel with all the commodities of a big town.
Oh, nice. So Jennie, when it comes to retirement planning, when it comes to investing and everything else, what is feeling behind? What's behind? Well, what does that mean?
Well, behind is really a feeling, it's not a fact. So when we look at what retirement behind means, we have to stop comparing ourselves to other people. And what we have to look at is, what does retirement really mean to us? And then see if we're on track. Well, to do that, a plan is really important because we have to quantify what we need in retirement or how that income looks in retirement, and then make a plan based on that. And so we have to make sure that we understand how much we need to save today so that we know what we're going to need in retirement.
And then, so now we're talking about the good result is enough income that lasts through retirement. Do you feel like a lot of people, get to this point and they've been working with somebody who's an asset manager or somebody who's accumulating most of the time, and then they really haven't had this conversation. They don't really know if they're behind or anything. It's kind of a feeling, and in reality, they're not planning. They're sort of hoping for things to happen. Talk about how you, start discussing that with a client who comes to you.
Well, when clients come to me, I always say, let's look at a beginning with end in mind approach. And I always use this concept. If you were going to drive to New York City and you didn't have a map, you're liable, we know it's east and we know it's north, but we could go too far south, we could go too far north, and so we really need to create a map to understand where we're going, how we're going to get there, and then what we do that with retirement planning is we look and say, okay, based on our living today and our lifestyle, we want to make sure that we can stay within that same lifestyle. And to do that, we have to understand what today's dollar looks like in the future. And then we have to understand how our savings work and how that equates into income in retirement. And so it's really a roadmap on how to get to retirement to build that confidence that our clients need.
And then so when we're thinking about all the other risks that are going on right now, obviously at the time of this interview, everybody, we're at war with Iran. There's the news cycle is affecting markets. It's somewhat resilient for some reason, but we're essentially in a correction. We just got a jobs report that was up when nothing really makes sense now, and everything seems to be going down, even gold sometimes. So in that kind of a situation where, you have to consider, like everything, let's talk about, taxation and, health care, things like that. That's can be a big drain and a cost that most people, when they think about a risk, they just think about the market. And how do you handle that?
Well, I tell people we have to plan for the future. And to do that, we can't just focus on the market because the market's going to go up and down. It's going to fluctuate. And if we base all our income on accumulation and we don't start planning today and we don't look at different assets that we can use to protect ourselves when markets are down, or we don't pack that bag in pre-retirement, once you get to retirement, it really is harder to do that. You have less options. So the earlier we can start planning, the earlier that we can start looking at how income streams work and how markets fluctuate, the less likely we are to outlive our money. We have more potential of higher income during retirement, and then we also have the ability to possibly leave more behind for our loved ones. But it really is keeping our clients in the lifestyle that they are in today, so that they can make those memories with their family. They can do the fun things and they're not worried that, oh no, the market's going down today, so I can't go on my vacation. I don't want my clients to think about that. I want them to think about, you know what, my grandkid just graduated college, and guess what? I'm gonna take them to Mexico to the beach that they wanna go on, and we're gonna have a great time. That's what I want my clients to focus on.
And I would guess, and I think you would probably agree, this is a level of planning that you should not do alone, right? I know there are people who are do-it-yourselfers, and they probably focus in on returns more than anything else. How would somebody know that they have the right advisor who can, work in the accumulation side, but also then the specifics of retirement planning, which is really the most important part of all the investing that people have done.
I tell my clients, look for somebody that's going to help you get to the finish line and understand the finish line before you ever get there. And what I mean by that is that beginning with end in mind approach. So if you're only looking at accumulation, how do you know what that turns into an income at retirement? How do you know how much income you actually need? It's really easy to say, you know what, I'm going to have $1 million at the end of my retirement, but is that truly enough? And until you do the planning process to look and say, okay, what does my income today look like when I retire? How do I create my savings into that income to maintain that lifestyle? How do you know where you're going to go? So if they're only talking about accumulation, you need, in my personal opinion, you need to find an advisor that's going to help you create that roadmap to know how to get there, so that when you get there, you're prepared. You're not worried about, did I save enough? We use like the mountain analogy. You can't call a helicopter in at the top of the mountain during retirement to get help if you didn't pack your bags right before you got there. So our job is really to help you figure out what that looks like at that top of the mountain to get you down the mountain safely.
Thank you, Jenny. Good stuff, good talk. Jennie Gilroy, Financial Strategies Group in Findlay, Ohio. Actually, the jewel of Ohio, really is what I would call Findlay. This is Retirement News Online. You can find out more at retirementnewsonline.com. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for watching.